about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. You know, so we just had Mother's Day, which is not my favorite holiday. My least favorite holiday is Valentine's. Even though I love my husband, I think it's over-commercialized and it makes people stress. Whether you're in a relationship or not, there's stress. You know, are you giving a good enough gift? Do you have to spend the money? Are you single? So I really don't like Valentine's Day. Mother's Day, I'm not a big fan of either. I mean, I love my mom. You know, we celebrate. I wanted my mom to feel, special. And it's, but yeah, it's just has not been one of my favorite days. And my kids, I don't want them to stress. One of my sons, he's, in college, so he has finals. So I'm like, let's just, we'll just quickly go to lunch, make it quick. We're just doing it for grandma and whatever. And my boys are really, really nice, but I don't like being doted over. I just don't like that. Yeah. I mean, every day should be mommy day in terms of you being nice to me. Now, like the cat did not go pee-pee house for Mother's Day. I'm like, well, you should be doing that 365 days a year. So it almost reminds me of the bull crap that everybody pulls all year long. So it's hard. It's hard. And then it's not that easy when you love people who've lost somebody. So like Father's Day is hard on me too, because I lost my dad. And so people who don't have a mom anymore, it's depressing. And I don't know. It's, by the way, Mother's Day was originally supposed to be in memoriam. Anna Jarvis wanted to honor her mom. So that's how Mother's Day started. And her late mom, who had died previously, obviously. Mother's Day can be just about memorializing as well as honoring your current mom. But the lines, the reservations, the cost of brunch, I don't know. I'm just not a big fan. It was kind of stressful. But being that it's Mother's Day, you do hear a lot of the mommy jokes and the women stuff. And I don't mind. Some of these I think are funny. Like I remember I told you on Facebook, I had been speaking about, I had a couple years ago, we had our first female ref in the NFL. And I'm like, wow, we have our first female ref in the NFL. And then somebody wrote, yeah, but the problem is she brings up penalties from 2 years ago. And so they're not wrong. Why do women do that? Why do women dwell on the past? Although Amy Klobuchar said she doesn't want to dwell on the past. I guess Amy Klobuchar was interviewed by NBC, and I guess they brought up Biden again, and she said she doesn't want to dwell on the past. So when do you dwell on the past, and when don't you? One end, as a kid, especially with the Holocaust and family members who survived the Holocaust, you just kept hearing history can repeat itself. History can repeat itself. You got to learn from what your predecessors did. You have to, we do see anti-Semitism. We do see, that history does repeat itself. And so you can't be blind to what happened in the past. You can't erase history. You can't change it around and make it more, relative to 2025. I mean, what happened in biblical times? It was a different time. But by the way, that's one of my pet peeves. Watching a movie that is dated or a TV show where the setting is the 1920s or the 1800s and them use vernacular of today. I like the whole Yellowstone 1883, 1923, but some of the language and the way they're using it, they didn't speak like that. And so I get very frustrated because I want the accuracy. How did they actually talk? How did they actually, and so like the cuss words they would say, a lot of those cuss words we altered, in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, and they're saying them like you're listening to a bunch of 2025 people. So I have a little bit of issue with that. But when do you move forward? And when do you dwell on the past? Well, you never dwell on the past. Dwelling is a negative word. But you read, you research, you learn what was done, you learn what went well, the mistakes that were done, what worked, and then you improve on it. So when people say you never dwell on the past, past isn't the bad word, dwell is. But you do need to understand what happened in the past so that you can build upon that. Don't take that antibiotic. Remember you had a reaction. You're dwelling on the past, Mom. I'm trying to save your life. You had a reaction before. Okay, don't take that medication. So, these are the past helps you with the present and the future. But moving forward is always therapeutic. When bad things happen, you have to keep moving forward. Like Martin Luther King Jr. said, if you can't walk, then crawl. If you can't crawl, just keep moving. I'm sorry if I'm misquoting, but if you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving. You got to keep moving. You can't be stagnant. Being stagnant is bad for your blood. You clot. Infection comes in. You need to keep moving. When people lose somebody, it's not easy. Gosh, it's not easy. Your whole world is shattered. And I'm not saying go to the club that night, but once you finish your grieving process, whether it's sitting Shiva or through the wake or, however you do it in your religion or in your family, you have to look at how are we going to move forward. And it is probably one of the most therapeutic conversations you could have. That comes second to how do we prepare for the future? God forbid somebody leaves. Hopefully you all have had that conversation with your family. Okay, well, what do we do if so-and-so is gone? Do we have life insurance? Do we have a plan? Coming up with a plan and not it being chaotic. But God forbid, something happens, like with the Democratic Party and Biden or whatever. You group together and say, how are we going to move on? Now, there's always somebody that goes, well, it was this person's fault, and because they want to move on without that other person. How are we going to move forward? This is our situation. We're not going to be able to change it, but we do have power over our decisions. What are we going to do? 1-877-Doc-Daliah. Don't go away. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Hotshot Secret Stiction Eliminator.
Stiction, that sticky friction, undermines the performance of diesel engines. Third-party ASTM testing verifies that Stiction Eliminator removes 2 times as much stiction than any alternative on the retail shelf. Stiction Eliminator is formulated to be left in the engine oil. It works as you drive.
Available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hotshot Secret. Powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Now, don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
All right. We are back at the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So you're going to see this headline where there's this one sentence that if you say your doctor knows to stop everything and he knows that there's something going on that they need to find. And that sentence is, I feel fine, I feel good, but my wife made me come in. Okay? Now you're going to see this headline, and I understand every now and then a doctor comes on to and they do their thing and they do their podcast and whatever, but the doctor's not wrong. This is, let me see if I could give credit where credit is due. Let me see if Dr. Sam Ghali. He is, I believe, an ER doc. And he wrote on Twitter something similar to that, and he's not wrong. When a patient comes in and says, look, I'm good, but the wife made me come in, there is probably a 100% chance that that person has something wrong with him. Because let's say the wife doesn't like him, then they wouldn't send him to the doctor, right? That means obviously somebody cares about you. And if they didn't care about you, they wouldn't send you to the doctor. They'd send you to go to the store and go buy something. So usually that signifies to us something's wrong. Another sentence, if I could add to this, is I've never been sick in my life. That sends chills up my spine. I had a patient, it was a mom of a friend of mine who came in, she said, I've never needed an antibiotic. I've eaten healthy. I've taken care of myself. I have never been sick in my life. Well, she ended up having blood in her stool, and she had metastatic colon cancer. We got her into GI doctor as soon as we met her, but by then it was too late. Why? Because she was healthy. And she always seemed to work through problems with her nutrition and such that when she couldn't deal with it anymore and she got worried, she broke down and came in. And that's the hard part, because when they come in too late where we can't do anything for them. So when somebody says, I've never been sick my whole life, I get nervous. Or if they say, my wife told me to come in, I feel fine. So the first thing I do is then I ask, okay, what is your wife worried about or your husband worried about? Well, they say, I don't breathe in my sleep. So she must be on crack. I breathe in my sleep. No, she's probably witnessing sleep apnea. She just saved your life. Now, it's funny. When I tell a husband that the wife just saved their life, they're like, they don't look happy. They're like, oh, God, she's going to hold this over me. Right. Now I owe her one. All right. She's going to say, I told you so. Listen, I would rather you be alive being listened to, I told you so, than she being at the gravesite crying over your headstone. So let her have her, I told you so. In fact, what I always do with my husband is I'm like, you were right. You told me so. Now he can't say it. I mean, what's it going to do? Repeat? I told you so. So why? What are they concerned about? Well, because I'm forgetting things. Or she says I'm forgetting things. She says I'm not breathing. She says that I'm burping a lot or I'm hiccuping a lot, right? Got to check the heart. She's concerned because I've never needed Viagra and I need Viagra now. She's concerned that my sex drive has dropped. What is it that they're concerned? Now, sometimes you don't get an accurate read. Sometimes they're like, I don't know. The chick is crazy. I'm like, okay, well, let's say, okay, so what does this crazy chick say? What is coming out of her mouth? Maybe I could translate and decipher. Well, she's saying that, I'm going to have a heart attack and I look like her father. Okay. Well, why does she think you look like her father? I don't know. He had a big stomach and and so sometimes you can kind of tease it out. So then what I do, because I don't ever want to think that I'm ganging up, that's the difficult part about being a female doctor. Many men are reluctant to go to a female doctor because they think we're going to gang up with the wife. So anytime a patient wants to see me without the wife, I let that happen, which is another story. So that remind me to bring that up. So in terms of what I then tell them is I say, look, okay, now your wife obviously cares about you, but why don't you and I together, let's just do an exam and let's see what you and I come up with. All right. Now they kind of like that if they don't want the I told you so. Well, she's wrong. She thinks I have a bad heart, but I think all it is I'm burping a lot. Okay. Yeah, and it could be gastroesophageal reflux. Let's see what's going on. Whatever we can do to fine tune it. And let's work to keep your heart healthy so we never do prove her right. I like that plan. So so sometimes that seems to work. But the ganging up is something that has prevented men. The reason why men started coming to the doctor was Viagra. Pfizer, I credit for bringing men to the doctor and saving men's lives. Because in the 90s, women would come in more than men. They were more inclined to go to the doctor. And then they would bring me the ad saying, my husband wants this. I'm like, I can't write that for your husband. He has to come in. Okay, well, then give it to me. I'll take it. I can't give it to you. It's not FDA approved for women. If you want Viagra in your home and bedroom, your husband is going to have to come in. And boy, were they ticked and they were reluctant. And, and now they're going to the doctor's office. But I got to tell you, in the 90s, that was a mass transformation. And then I'm like, look, if you're having blood flow issues to the penis, you're having blood flow issues to the heart. Let me check your heart. And I can't tell you how much coronary artery disease we picked up on because now men are coming in. Now, some of them don't want to sit there and have the wife or the girlfriend or their partner in there. And like I told you, conversations would go, I would be reading the labs and the wife would be sitting there, husband's on the table. And I'm like, okay, so your total cholesterol was a little high. And then he would look at his wife to translate. She's like, you're eating too much crap. Then he looks at me. Now, your liver enzymes were slightly elevated, so I'd like to investigate that further, see if it's fatty, infiltrate. It's okay. And then he would stop looking at me and look at her, and she'd be like, you're drinking too much. Right? Now, she might have been right, but it's a kind of difficult way to do medicine. So I read the patient. And if I think the patient wants the wife in the room, we keep her there. And, sometimes if I feel like she's, doing too much of the speaking, I'm like, so I'd like in your words, okay, your wife's not wrong. You brought up some good points we need to address. In your words, what do you think is going on? So once you say in your words, they have to shut up because now I need him to speak. If he feels like he needs to talk to me without her, okay, what I do is I say, Jane or whatever, can you join me outside? Okay, so now she thinks we're having a side discussion. Okay, so I'm like, look, I'm going to do what you suggested. I think you brought up some good points. I don't know if I'm going to get him to reveal everything we need, in terms of his health. So I'm going to have a one-on-one with him, okay? And then I am going to bring up some of the things you had wanted and see if we could do a comprehensive workup with everybody's ideas together. But let me talk to him for a few minutes, and then I want to bring you back in, and we'll have I don't know can't think of the right term. It's probably not very medical sounding, but we'll talk about it together. Okay, I forget what that term is I used to use. And she's like, I love it. Where do you want me? And I'm like, you know what? I want you to look at some of these brochures because these are some of the things I'm going to talk to him about. Why don't you have a seat in the lobby and I'm going to grab you as soon as I'm done talking to him. So sometime, or I'll have you sit right here in the hallway. Something so I can at least get some one-on-one. Because oftentimes you do get that sort of, you'll also get that with a lot of females where they have somebody else in the room that's kind of dominating and wanting to hear everything they say. And that's very difficult. And so usually I'm like, well, now we're going to do the gynecological exam. The thing is I have to bring in my nurse, so there's going to be too many people. So if you want, we're going to have you right here so you can still hear, but we just need some room we need some space in the room. And that's when I'm able to get a conversation. Or I walk the lady to the bathroom. And I say, like when these kids say, yeah, I'm not having sex. I just want birth control for acne. I've never had sex. And the mom's like, oh, nope, she never had sex. I'm like, good. Let me walk you to the bathroom. We just need to do a urine test. And then when I walk to the bathroom, I'm like, have you ever had sex? Because I need to know. And because we need to do some testing. And 99.999% of the time, they say yes. So you got to have some one-on-one conversations. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So now Ziploc is getting sued. Ziploc. I haven't bought a lot of Ziploc bags. They're expensive. In fact, I accidentally I shop a lot on Amazon. So I bought bags that ended up looking cheaper than Ziploc. They didn't, though when I got them, now I know why they were cheaper. They didn't have that Ziploc. They were bags that it was kind of false advertising. And I bought a whole bunch of bags because it was such a great price, but they don't Ziploc. They came with ties. But the food is still fresh. They still work. Well, we're being told by Men's Journal that Ziploc, one of the most trusted names in kitchen storage, is now at the center of a consumer class action lawsuit, alleging that its packaging is dangerous than advertised. Where was this filed? Well, where else? California. Okay. If somebody's going to get sued, it's going to be in California. And the complaint was filed in late April by California resident Linda Cheslow. She accuses the brand of false, misleading, and deceptive labeling related to the risk of microplastic exposure. According to court filings published by About Lawsuits, the popular plastic bags labeled as microwave safe and freezer safe may leach microplastics into food when used as directed. That risk, the lawsuit argues, is not disclosed to consumers and could have long-term consequences for their health. They're not wrong. But my answer to that is, well, duh. We know plastic leaches. We've been knowing that for years. Anytime you wrap up your food, especially if it's hot, you never cook in plastic. But nope. So I guess Ziploc now has to put that on their products. Their products are made of polyethylene and polypropylene plastic. These are materials that can degrade under heat or cold. Cheslow's lawsuit claims that these products pose the danger of leaching microplastics when microwaved or frozen, routine uses that the brand specifically encourages. Okay, so the brand should never encourage microwaving in plastic. That's a no-no. So the filing says this is particularly concerning given that microplastics bioaccumulate in the body, meaning that each exposure and consumption compounds the risk of long-term health harm. The complaint describes the risk as both recurring and persistent, especially with regular use of the product over time. So my next question is, are water bottles getting sued? Are plastic food containers getting sued? Are fast food places using styrofoam or the coating so the grease doesn't go through the cardboard? Are they going to get sued? Since we know that microplastics accumulate in the body, and they say each exposure or consumption compounds the risk of long-term health harm, you could sue anybody now. They say recent studies have found microplastics in human food, lungs, brain, and even heart tissue. They're not wrong. The full impact is being researched, but we really do not want to have these tiny particles in our body. They contribute to oxidative stress, chronic inflammation, and can damage cells. AP News says the lawsuit seeks class action status to include other Ziploc users who may have been unknowingly exposed. Well, that's everybody. So as this case gains traction, this could be all over the food storage industry. Now, I think RFK Jr. wants to address the microplastics, but there's so much else they're addressing right now, like the drug prices, thank God, are going to hopefully come down with this new executive order, and looking at vaccine safety, and if we need to make our vaccines safer by not using certain products, not using funds like SNAP funds on junk food, but only healthy food. So there's a lot of things that the HHS has to do, but microplastics is one of them. But the big question I have is, if it's Ziploc, who else? I mean, I have a water bottle right here. I don't think it has any warnings on be careful if you live in southern Nevada and your water bottle was sitting in your car for longer than 20 or 30 minutes. We're hitting the 100-degree mark soon. I think it was 99 the other day. You cannot have your water bottle, by the way, do not have any soda also sitting in your car. It's too hot. Now, my car was over 100 degrees the other day, but I didn't have any water in it. I always bring the water with me. So we'll keep you posted on that. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Newsweek is reporting that China is going to change their marriage rules amid efforts to boost birth rates. They're going to ease restrictions on marriage registration as part of a broad campaign to address shrinking population. They say the new rules make it easier for couples to marry by reducing bureaucratic hurdles and expanding where regulations can take place. They say these new rules reflect Beijing's urgency in combating a demographic crisis. In 2024, China's population fell for a third consecutive year. Fewer than 6.1 million couples registered their marriages, down from 7.68 million. It comes after the national political advisor Chen Songji recommended lowering the legal age for marriage to 18 to boost fertility chances in February. So I guess the legal age of marriage in China is 22 and 20 for women. So these new marriage rules came into effect on Saturday. It eliminates the requirement for household registration books, allows couples to register in locations other than their permanent residence. They say this is relevant in a society where over 490 million people live away from their registered hometowns. So the process now takes 10 minutes. ID cards get checked, photos of the newlyweds, and then they fill out forms and verify information. They say in the first quarter of the year, China recorded 1.81 million marriage registrations. That is 8% less than the same period last year. So I find that very, very interesting that, there's this process. I mean, living in Vegas, people drive down here all the time to get an Elvis. Yeah, I think the Elvis weddings reopened after COVID in 2022. And so people can get married by Elvis impersonators, of course. And they, there is marriage certificate. See, I got married in California. So I had to take a syphilis test. They make you do a blood test for syphilis. And I think they also tested for HIV. I passed. No, I don't have them. Hubby did too. And then, so the process was a little bit longer than 10 minutes because you had to wait for your blood work. But it was pretty easy. And then I had to change my name. A lot of people don't want to do that. It's a pain in the butt to go down to the Social Security office or go online and change your name. So a lot of people, they don't change your name anymore. But I wanted to change my name, so I was happy about that. But, it's interesting because, China looks like, probably looks or frowns on extramarital families. And, where in America, people are having kids with non-spouses all the time. So people have baby mamas, baby papas, and there are families where there's, not necessarily the nuclear family, where a dad may have 3 or 4 different families. He's just not technically married, so he doesn't get in trouble for polygamy. And so, we in America, the marriage metric doesn't always parallel the birth rate, but in China it parallels a little closer. And I think we are moving towards a society that doesn't want to have kids. I hear from people all the time, it's too much work, it's too much money. See, I never thought that way. We were in an apartment. I was going to breastfeed, figure out how to do the formula with the second kid. The second kid would get all hand-me-downs, and we would make it work. I brought the baby to work. I took 3 days off with my second, 2 weeks with my first, but I went back to work right away, and it was not easy. We tried to do the daycare thing. We tried to do babysitters, but we knew it was going to cost money. But it's now so expensive that it's so cost prohibitive for people to have kids. Well, that's not good. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away. Hi, guys. Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So what? We have about 333 million Americans. Medicaid is apparently pretty controversial as it pertains to the big, beautiful bill and what House Republicans and House Democrats are arguing over. Well, how many people are on Medicaid? About 78 million. If you do the math, that's almost 24%. Just round up. 1 in 4 Americans are on Medicaid. Why? is 24% of our population in poverty? And if so, what are we doing about it? Or are some people on Medicaid choosing not to work? I don't think it's everybody. We have a lot of individuals who cannot work. But as I've said before, people will always say, Dr. Daliah, people with disabilities, people with medical issues. No. If you have disabilities or medical issues, you get Medicare. We're talking about Medicaid. Medicaid is for able-bodied people who sadly don't have enough income coming in to buy insurance. Now, I thought Obamacare was going to fix that. No, what Obamacare did is say, all right, well, let's just expand Medicaid and let more people be on it. So now a quarter of our population is on Medicaid and rising. So House Republicans, are working on President Trump's big, beautiful bill, which, by the way, I'm sorry, I really don't like calling it that, the big, beautiful bill, but that's what they're calling it. And they want to do $880 billion in cuts. They say, according to AP News, to Medicaid to help cover the $4.5 trillion in tax breaks. Is it time that Medicaid gets cut? Is it time we look into why a quarter of our population needs that? Remember, if they're sick or disabled, they go on Medicare. We're paying for Medicare for them, as well as if you're a senior. But Medicare, you could be on it 25 years old if you have a disability. So we have a safety net. Medicaid is for individuals who are poor and lower income and don't meet the threshold to be able to purchase their own insurance. And that was thanks to Obamacare because it's really, really expensive. But now you have Republicans and Democrats going, well, you can't cut Medicaid. If you do cut Medicaid, that can cause people to lose coverage. Remember, I told you that was the whole plan of Obamacare. Let's give everybody something. So then when you have to take it away, it's going to look bad politically. Just like with Biden. Let's just have the border open. Let's just let everybody flood it. And then it'll be on Trump to have to actively deport. So Biden doesn't look like the bad guy because all he did is look the other way as it pertained to the border. But Trump has to do the active work. And so here we are with a quarter of the U.S. population on Medicaid. And we're looking at what that's costing. Now, repealing and replacing the Affordable Care Act, one of those goals, because now people are like, why do Republicans want to repeal and replace? Well, one, because the bill sucked. But despite, we do like the pre-existing conditions, that finally being covered and physicals being covered, there were thousands of pages of other stuff mixed in. And there was no sunset to the expanding of Medicaid. We were in a recession. And that recession went well into 2015. I understand now the news is changing it, going, it ended in 2009 and there was all this prosperity. No, it wasn't. We were in the Great Recession and it went well past 2014. And so Obamacare allowed, even though it was passed in 2009, there to be a non-sunsetting ability for people to get on Medicaid. But then they didn't go off. And I'm seeing people who have Medicaid, they don't get snappity access to doctors. They wait a long time. So maybe that money, that $880 billion, could go to, now that it's not costing $880 billion. Those are cuts to the program. Let me see if I have the number. Sorry about this. 3.6. They're saying $3.6 billion was spent. Oh, that's just Nevadans alone. So they say the total cost was $870 billion. So I think AP News is wrong. We're not going to cut $880 billion in Medicaid if that's what we're spending on Medicaid. Okay. But still, we're talking about billions of dollars. Wouldn't that money be better spent on clinics, free clinics, or clinics where you spend $5 to get seen across the country? You could do a lot with that kind of money. They're not going to. It's easier to just leave the current system in place. But if we have a quarter of Americans on Medicaid, we're doing something wrong, and we're failing people who are requiring that help. And we do need to fix Obamacare and repeal the Affordable Care Act, preserving the pre-existing conditions and the physicals and the essential benefits, because otherwise it's not insurance, it's crap. But insurance is just too expensive. So, of course, people have to go on the government insurance. And maybe that was a plan. Remember, they all wanted public option. They wanted government-run insurance. That's the plan, and they're going to keep moving towards that. But, we have a lot of people who are on it, and they're healthy. Like the Tsarnaev brothers. We're being told, and you saw one of those brothers was boxing in a gym, very buff. The Boston Marathon bombing brothers, we're being told, was getting government handouts. You're telling me he couldn't work? That guy had some muscle. Well, he was disabled. Well, then if he's disabled, then he gets Medicare. I'm still not convinced he needed Medicaid. And we're paying for it. So there's got to be a better way to do it. Whether it's, work requirements or offering opportunities where they could get back into the workforce. I mean, I've seen the articles where for many, they go by the time they give up the food stamps, the Medicaid, the housing assistance, and all the extra government entitlement money, you would have to pay them 6 figures to make it worth their while to go back to work. Well, something's got to change. We don't have enough 6-figure jobs. So I don't know if cutting Medicaid costs is the answer as much as let's figure out how to get these people actual health care. An Obamacare card in your wallet does not necessarily mean you're seeing a medical provider and getting all the care you need. It just means you have coverage from the government, but people still aren't being able to see their doctor because their doctor's left. Obama said you could keep your doctor. Most people lost their doctor. So maybe let's set up these clinics where people can get seen and can get taken care of. And maybe it costs $5 or $2, something, so there's some skin in the game. And there could be endowments to cover people that don't have the $2 or $5. But if we have a quarter of the population on Medicaid, we got to figure out why. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.